Well, hello and good morning. Welcome to everyone that's already here. So as we warm up, hello Anna, I'll get you guys to write something in the bottom right corner, which is the text box, so you guys can chat to each other on the right. I can also see what you're writing there, so if you want to communicate to me that way you can. Just a bit of housekeeping before we start. So this is a live broadcast, but it can be watched. The replay can be watched anytime after this as well. I'll leave it there available for you guys. Now, down the bottom, you also have the option to ask a question. There's a box down the bottom that says ask a question. You guys can pose questions that I can either answer here or at a later time. And you can also vote for each other's questions. So as I put in my post, I gave the first 4 that registered some time to share, ask questions, and come up on screen if they like. That's a choice. The rest of you can be involved in the chat box on the right. You can ask questions, you can chime in, you can talk to each other as well. If you just want to hang out in the background and listen, that's totally fine. There is no level of participation that I'm going to hold you to. This is just a free offering, a live stream where we have a chance to collectively raise our frequency together and to explore some questions, some experiences. And what I'm really hoping for this is that we can all find connection together and realize that most of us are going through the same ebbs and flows. We are collectively experiencing cycles and changes in frequency that we can all relate to. So can everyone hear me and see me properly? Just let me know if the sound is good, if you guys are, yep, thanks Karen, thanks Anna, all good from Paul, thanks Paul, hi Paul. Just let me know on the right too if anything changes, if you're finding it hard to connect in or if the sound's not great. Excellent. Hi, Amanda. So I had some people that registered early and I would like to give them the first chance to share. I'm going to open up the live stream by talking about a couple of concepts that I think are really beneficial at this time. But let me know if anyone here at the moment actually wants to come up on screen and share, which means when the time comes, I'll invite you up. You'll have about 15, 20 minutes to ask a question or explain what's happening for you. And then I can give you a bit of coaching or we can explore that together. Most of the time when people share, there's something of value in that share for everyone in the group and anyone that watches the replay as well. So in the vulnerability of the share, there is an opportunity to really help some people and to contribute into the collective connection. So at any time, let me know if anybody wants to come up. Just put it in the text box on the right. Say, I'd love to share, and we'll see what we have time for. As I open up the event, you might find that things are resonating. And if they do, and you'd like to chime in, which means maybe what I'm talking about poses a question within you and you'd like to come up and share, just let me know. So not sure where all of you have chimed in from, but I am speaking to you from Southeast Queensland, which is currently in lockdown until tomorrow, although that might be extended. I find it's a really good opportunity to explore some of the concepts that have been, hey, Paul, Reedy Creek, not too far away, some of the concepts that we can all be relating to as these different restrictions and things start to change in our local areas. Basically, there is so much changing so quickly that everyone in their own way is being lent towards, sometimes forced, sometimes restricted into a deeper reflection of what's going on. That's what's going on within us and around us too. Now, I wanted to open up this event by talking about time and also the different levels of consciousness, because what I'm noticing in everyone that I'm talking to and the people that I've been working with for years now is, as we go towards our self-development, as we grow as a person, as we explore the spiritual aspects of ourselves, whether that's, hey, Belle, whether that's intuition development, whether that's healing trauma, whether that is trying to balance our lifestyle, we have access to different levels of consciousness. Different levels of consciousness means how much we're aware of, how much we are using our brain's capacity, how much we are exploring inside our consciousness. Most people through this collective transition have found the courage to access different levels of consciousness, which means we have been forced to push ourselves into areas of discomfort that maybe we wouldn't have found anyway. There is a lot going on at the moment. There's a lot changing. Now, those changes, whether they're in front of us, whether we're traumatized by them, whether we're greatly affected or not affected at all, are still contributing to the collective frequency. Now, the collective frequency is like what we're swimming in. We are affected by it on many different levels. We contribute to the collective frequency through our own frequency. And the levels of consciousness that we have access to are greatly changing our vibrations. So the way that healing is developing through this transition is we are becoming more sensitive to the subtleties of the frequency around us. So let's talk about levels of consciousness. The most popular New Age term for levels of consciousness at the moment is 3, 4, and 5D. So there's some theories that we've been working towards a more consistent, higher level of frequency that would keep us in a higher or broader or more expansive access to levels of awareness, which basically means we could be floating around in a frequency that helps us to access more awareness, more healing, more love, more connection, more freedoms, more abundance, more truth. Yeah, we would naturally be accessing our intuition easier. We would naturally be connecting to each other in a more subtle way. But the part that I want to address is, as you raise your vibration or your frequency, you can access higher levels of consciousness, which mean we can get away from the density of what most people report is their biggest ailment at the moment. The density comes through with ego-based narratives, with the chattery mind, with the very thoughts that lower our frequency, that are based on words and experiences and thought forms that are disempowering or that we don't want. Yeah, so people mostly report that they wish their mind would be slower and they wish they could think thoughts that made them feel good. Yeah, we understand that clarity in the mind actually raises our frequency easily. It's the idea that when we get out of the way, that we actually have access to everything that our heart desires. The interesting part for me becomes, it's not that people don't know about raising their frequency or healing their trauma or balancing their lives or self-care or accessing the very tools and actions and behaviors that would better their lives. The interesting part for me is how they know all that. They have access to the information, but yet we keep ourselves somewhere that feels stuck. We get in our own way. So it's not a lack of knowledge, that takes us or keeps us in lower vibrations. It's actually mechanisms of self-sabotage that keep us down in those dense forms. Now, self-sabotage is a very interesting topic of mine, and I have been creatively exploring that for many years. We are also looking at a collective density that helps us to stay stuck in conditioning. So what I'm talking about here is the conditioning that we've developed because of our society framework, because of our childhoods, because of our inherited tendencies, because of the programs that have been consented to, usually from a very young age, that have been keeping us safe and keeping in a lower density, are now starting to dissolve. They're starting to melt away. They're starting to change, right? This is the reality that our world is changing in front of our eyes, which often provokes a lot of fear because it's challenging the parts of ourselves that want to move into higher frequencies but are scared to. Usually we're scared because we don't have a rule book, we don't have a blueprint, we don't have someone that can show us how to do it. It's all very new, and it's scary because those programs that have kept us safe and kept us in survival mode are now being challenged. So we want two things in the one pot. We want to evolve. We want to become more intuitive. We want to have more love and connection and abundance in our lives, but yet our conditioning is screaming at us that it's not safe. When we look at safety, safety is the concept that your whole nervous system is linked into. Your nervous system reacts and responds to our levels of safety. That level of safety tells us whether we're calm and relaxed or whether there's a threat. So I talk a lot to my clients and my Patreon members about the levels of awareness, and the states of consciousness can also be looked at through the chakra systems. In my years as a healer, a practitioner, particularly in my Chinese medicine practice, I was surprised by how many base chakras were very empty, and where all the energy leaks were coming from. The base chakra is like a container, it's like a sink. Now, it represents our level of safety from which we can find through society, through our family members' tribe. We can also find that level of safety through our financial security or our financial independence. That level of safety and security is the basis from where we explore other levels of awareness and higher states of consciousness, right? So you may have already realized that when we don't feel safe, when our nervous system is reacting to levels of threat, whether they're in our physical environment or just in our mind or from our past or whatever they come through, when we are feeling unsafe, all we are doing is using most of our resources to just stabilize, to just be okay, to just breathe and be in the moment, although that feels super hard. This can often be where all the signals are going off at once. This can be at the very basis of our mental health, our feeling calm in the moment. The reason why that level of safety for the nervous system is so important, because when the nervous system signals safety, it unlocks resources. The resources can get flooded back into the system. This is where, now that we are calm, now that we are safe, we can actually start creating, which is the second level of awareness, or the sacral chakra. From creation, we have a self-recycling mechanism around all of our resources. Through creation, we can take any external circumstance and turn it into something beautiful. We can take any internal circumstance, any internal relationship, and where we can create something new, we can refine, we can change, we can color, we can do all sorts of beautiful things. Creation is about building something from nothing. So it doesn't matter what we have, we can change it, we can modify it, we can make it ours, we can make it more authentic, we can bring more love into the world, we can create abundance. But usually this is something that comes from a base chakra that signals safety. Now, I've been working with people through their trauma for many years. The reason why trauma is so very important is it because it holds the seeds of which we can use towards evolving into new levels of safety, new levels of calm. Hi, Tara. Good to have you here, darling. Thanks for chiming in. So those seeds of potential which are in our trauma actually represent the gold that we will need to be creative human beings, but also to stay in a level of safety, right? Because this is the part that is very interesting. Trauma is defined as any situation that threatens our safety. When we simplify it down like that, everybody's trauma is their own. Nobody escapes trauma on the earth plane. We can experience trauma through something that someone else would find nothing. A loud noise, one word that was said, a look from someone. It doesn't really matter. And then we can go into the depths of darkness through capital T trauma, which is big stuff that happens that other people would go, whoa, that's really intense. But it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter what kind of trauma or when it happened. It matters that your trauma are gateways. Every traumatic event is a gateway into healing yourself and accessing higher truths, higher perspectives. If you'd like to view it from a spiritual front, when we remove ourselves out of simply being here in a 3D reality, which is what can I see, hear, and touch around me, your trauma can be seen like the breadcrumbs that your soul or your higher self has left you to go back and gather, so that you have this wealth of abundant lessons and juicy understandings about your incarnation, your reason for being here, your mission. Your trauma is not just situations from which you prove that you can survive. Because if you feel into that, that has the energy of that life is just about getting on with it. Now, if life was just about getting on with it, you've done that. Even though it proves to you how strong you are, that you have gotten on with it despite the pain and the anguish and the darkness, it doesn't feel in your body like that's what you were here to do. Okay, goosebumps from Belinda. Let's go towards more gold. When we start searching for higher meaning, higher perspective, which means when I take an astral view at myself and my life and this incarnation in my reality, I can already draw myself up out of my 3D reality into the astral plane, which is 4D. We're not meant to be in 4D all the time. It's a bit of a transitory dimension to me. It's the place where you have prophetic dreams. It's the place that you can access when you ask yourself the right questions, like, how does this situation serve me? That already pulls us into a higher vibration so we can access a new level of awareness, right? So everything that happens to us, all of our experiences in our 3D reality can be looked at from many different perspectives. As soon as you draw yourself up out of your experiences, which means you draw yourself up out of victim mentality that says, why me? Why is this happening? This is terrible. All I have to do is just get on with it. Here we go again. Whatever those narratives are for you, as soon as you take a bird's eye view, you come up into the astral plane and say, hang on, How could this be serving me? What's actually here for me? Another question that can pull you up out of 3D into the astral plane is, what are my guides trying to show me here? In that question, there is a foundation of, I wouldn't be here in this very situation, in this very moment, in this exact way if it didn't serve me. Because underneath those questions are the trust and the faith that this life is special. This incarnation has a purpose. I have a mission here. All I need to do is now evolve to a place where I can see my darkness as only opportunities to transmute into light. Right? That pulls us up out of victim mentality, which is just your ego trying to organize your reality in a frame of safety, in a frame of survival, right? What the recent transitions are telling us is, if we only strive to survive through this, you will survive. But if you invite yourself into a new coding experience that says, how can I use all of these conditions and all of these situations in order to thrive, we have a whole new level of awareness. And usually this looks like, and I work with people a lot to get this place. If we bring the base chakra into safety, which means it looks like the sink fills up to full and overflows finally. What this feels like on a physical front is we finally fill up our energy tanks to a place that is maybe beyond 80%. We are accessing resources from a place of overflow, not from overwork. Yeah, so most energy tanks are dipping below 50%, so we go into burnout. This is constant fight and flight. This is adrenal fatigue. This is thyroid problems. This is chronic fatigue. This is anxiety, depression. When that energy tank gets too low, we are in survival. We have no other choice. When you get below 50%, you are fight and flight all the time. All the time. This is a place where we are so easily controlled because our body is telling us we actually don't have the energy reserve to access creative solutions or creative thought. And what that plays out like is you just churn over and over the same problems, the same narratives, this is the monkey mind. This is hearing the same narratives over and over again, almost like background noise, of which you never solve the problems. You never draw any gold out from your experiences or your past or your trauma. It's where you churn. Now, churning has this effect in the body that dips into resources because it takes a lot of energy to think constantly. If you imagine the amount of energy, which we call qi in Chinese medicine, the amount of qi and blood it takes for your mind to be in constant thought, to be making neural impulses like this all the time. I haven't really worked with anyone over the last few years that hasn't said, I wish my mind was quieter and slower and would just stop. Some will even go through sleep patterns of where they feel like they're busy. For us, this dips into resources. We need qi and blood to think all the time. So we need to take qi and blood from somewhere. We can either put it in, we can make food, we can get it from the sun, we can recycle it. The other limitation on this is that if we're confined to needing to make all of our energy to fuel us, then we are not only greatly underestimating the capacity of our bodies to take in energy from everywhere, but we are also never really fulfilling those energy tanks beyond 50 or 60%. Right? Because remember I said that the base chakra often has holes in it. What creates holes in the base chakra? Fear. feeling unsafe. It creates like micro holes. Some have a huge hole in the middle, which is like the sink plug's not in. We're trying to look for energy that's not there because every time we fill it up, it drains out. This is just exhaustion, really, fight and flight and exhaustion. When your nervous system is responding to everything in your environment because you've gotten to a low energy tank level, it takes a lot of energy for your body to just start repairing that. And what modern society has done is have us generally overworked, undernourished, and cut off from nature. Nature was always our easiest energy source. It was always the place where we could just absorb oxygen, sunlight, vitamin D. Everything about nature can simply fill us up and ground us at the same time. When we're not in nature most of the time, when we're cut off from nature, our thyroids start to tell us that the natural flow in our circadian rhythm, the natural connection we have to nature is changing. Therefore, we better go get that energy somewhere. Now, this can relate to different relationships with food. This can relate to coping mechanisms of which we're trying to find the same level of neurochemistry that is related to feeling fulfilled out in nature, feeling like I belong, feeling like I'm connected, safe, worthy, all of these concepts that we need emotionally. So we go out and we look for those concepts, we search for them and crave for them through other things. This can lead us to disempowering habits. I'm sure you can understand that. Our level of instant gratification has been heightened, mostly because we are not completing fear cycles. We are going into chronic fight and flight. Now, this is not here to make you feel worse about your reality. What I'm trying to explain is how you stay stuck in 3D. You will never ascend beyond 3D. That's not really what's happening here. You will always be anchored in the 3D reality. You will always be anchored in an ego narrative that is organizing your reality based on society and everything else around you. The idea is not to go up and I want to live in 5D all the time. It's more that we can be in many different dimensional planes at once and access the gold of all of them. What this means is, on a practical front, is when your body and your mind and your spirit are all in alignment, it means that what I think and what I do and what I feel are all within the same frequency. There is not constant negotiation. There is not the battle within. There is not, I think this, but I'm doing that because I'm trying to override that and I don't like this part and I'm beating myself up for that. Self-criticism, self-judgment, overload. Constant self-criticism and self-judgment is stress to the body. Your nervous system is reacting to the words that you're telling yourself. Now, this is true because if there was someone in your environment 24 hours a day telling you how you're not good enough and you didn't do that right and that's not great and you should have done it like this and whatever, you'd be like, oh my God, I am so stressed. So there's no difference with your thought patterns telling your body that. Your body is reacting to that discomfort. Like that person that's telling you that no matter what you do, your body is stressed. It is in fight and flight because there is a threat. Yeah? When we create the threat with our own thought patterns, that's where we use up resources. That's where our chi and blood goes. Because even that level of criticism, those words in that criticism, they have frequency and charge. So the frequency and charge that your body is picking up elevates the blood pressure, makes the heart beat a little bit faster, make the breathing a little bit more shallow, makes us a little bit hyper aware, hyper stimulated. So it's not only that our environment out there is often hyperstimulating, bright lights, loud noises, chaos, cities, whatever it is, but if our internal environment is creating that same triggering effect, then we have to go back to the source of that. So we come into the territory of, where are we actually allowing our narratives and our thoughts to run on the programs that do not serve us? What narratives are in our mind? And do we actually know whether we have access to change them? The secret is you do. How do we hack that system so that we can go back to the root and the source of the problem? So that even when the outside circumstances are hyperstimulating, creating stress, or have the recipe to, how do we actually counterbalance that with having full alignment within ourselves? The place that I'd want most of my students and clients to get to is, I want them to access freedom and alignment and purpose and love, no matter what is happening outside of them. If you can free yourself while you're in prison, nothing can touch you. No one can touch you. Now those access codes to that freedom are within you. There is no fancy modality. There is no crazy out there, inaccessible tool that you need. Most of the time, it is based on the awareness of that you are in control of your brain space, that you can access different areas beyond your ego narrative, and you can integrate narratives so that they come into alignment, so that they agree. What this means is your ego can be telling you what's a threat and not safe over here, and your intuition can be saying something beautiful like, just follow me, trust me, I've got it all sorted. And they can agree, so that you can be prepared for the threats and understand the levels of safety, but also be guided by something that is not in the construct of 3D, so that they can complement. And on top of that, you always have free will. So you can decide which actions are in alignment with your highest good, because you're aware of all the different polarities and perspectives of what the highest good means for you. This feels like healing. This feels like a deep remembering. This feels like alignment, which means I can now become the creator of my reality, because I'm not trying to survive through a reality that feels detached from me. So when I think of things out there as something foreign and separate to me, then I create a discourse between myself and my reality. This is usually from a nervous system that's in fight and flight. When I prioritize the actions and behaviors that I need in order to signal safety, I start creating. Creating is abundance. Creating is, all right, well, if this is my reality, then what am I going to change? What do I have the power to change? The heights of creativity for me have always come from curiosity. There are boundaries around our reality. Most of the time we've placed them there, or society's placed them there in order to keep us in order. But what if we just tinker on those boundaries? What if we ask ourselves the right questions to pull us into the astral plane to look at a different perspective? What's actually playing out here? What part of this do I have creative control over? What part of this is my responsibility? What part of this do I want? What do I want? Do I want all of it? Do I want some of it? What do I have the power to change? If we come from the concept of everything out there is a reflection of everything in here, so what makes me feel uncomfortable about something out there? What actually happened that sent off a trigger system in me that's telling me about my internal environment? What power do I have over that? All of these questions and all of these concepts are encouraging a sense of self-sovereignty. Self-sovereignty says that I am in control of my existence, that I am governing my whole system, that I am honoring my creative capacity in all of this, and I'm actually having and accepting my own authority in that. I'm in charge here. This is my incarnation. How can I change my reality for my own benefit, but to benefit humanity as well? These questions and these alignments pull us into the 5D realm, where there is access to full alignment, unlimited abundance, love everywhere. The other part, before I'll ask anyone if they want to chime in and share, is the part that I'm particularly interested in at the moment and that a lot of people are asking me questions about is the higher you are in your frequency and your vibration, the more you understand from the different levels of awareness, the slower time feels. Now, if time is our biggest measuring construct on this earth plane, what power do we have to change our relationship to time? Because technically time doesn't change, we change. So we change our relationship to it. And you know that this happens because when you do something creative that you absolutely love, have you noticed how time warps? Sometimes 5 hours can go past like that, or sometimes you get stuck in something and it feels like the longest day ever. That is our relationship with time changing. One of our biggest constructs, one of our biggest regulating parts of the 3D reality can be warped, changed, maneuvered, refined, played with. Most people report that the higher their frequency gets, which means the more well they feel, the more in alignment they are, the more they start creating their reality and their lives to suit their highest needs, the more purpose they have, the more time rich they feel. Now, time is just a resource. Most people that are linked in to a nervous system that is running quickly or running on fight and flight, or where there's fear-based programs underneath, actually running all the coping mechanisms, which is taking up a lot of their resources, they'll feel like they never have time. There's not enough time in the day. Time's going so quickly. Time flies. Now, I know there's that concept that time flies when you're having fun, but time actually just warps. Whether you're having fun, whether you're creating, whether you're not. So your relationship to time changes. I think if we are focusing our energy and intention on becoming more resource rich, which will help us to thrive through a situation that is creating the illusion that we are restricted, whatever that stress is outside of us, and it is a stress at the moment, the only thing, or the thing that we have the most power with, is our own resources. Time is one of the most abundant resources we have. So if we can change our relationship to time, to slow it down, to create more of it, to have more time to feel, to understand, to explore with our curiosity, to play in our own systems of power here, then that's something that we need to prioritize. Other resources that are filling up the energy tank, or when the energy tank gets more full, most people report time, money, supportive relationships. Resources can be feelings. So we're trying to balance the system to have as much calm and relaxation as we do other hyperstimulating emotions, whether they're good or bad or indifferent. Your body doesn't know the difference really. There's just stress and no stress. So we bring stress and no stress into balance which means our adrenals come back in and start filling up, so that the idea that we have access to adrenaline states is in crisis, which means we can actually pull them back and determine whether we're in crisis or not just react to everything. This creates this beautiful, abundant feeling in our resources, so that we're not running on empty, so that we're not coping, so that we're not trying to fill the void with other things outside of us. We start filling our own voids. We start filling up that sink, that base chakra. We overwhelm with safety, which tells us, I have enough. I have more than enough. I actually have enough here to start sharing with other people, and I can create now. There's a luxury of creation here through safety. Now, I'm also hoping that through lockdowns and restrictions and collective environment stresses or changes, that we can actually be allowed a new access point to becoming resource rich. Sometimes it takes for us to be forced to slow down, to simplify, to change our relationship with our routine and our schedule, and to reflect in a different plane for us to prioritize our own resources. And that's a very personal journey. Now, I have another piece to that is coming through, but I'd also like to open up the opportunity to anybody else that wants to come up and share. If you don't want to be on camera and you don't want to share in that way, then you can also write some questions in the chat box or ask a question down below. It's completely up to you guys. I can talk for the whole time if you want me to. But the questions bring in a different parameter of the foundation that I've just set up there. So let me know if you're curious about anything. I know that asking questions can be vulnerable, but through vulnerability, we can find deeper connection. So it's up to you. If you all just want to hang out in the background and listen, that's cool too. I'll give you a little bit of time. But there will be another piece coming through. So I had the people registered, and some of them registered before the others. So oh, thanks, Paul. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Belle. So Belle asked the question there, what brought you wanting to do the work that you do? What's been your journey? Okay, awesome. And Paul just said it's enlightening and beneficial. So I won't bore you with the whole story, but I have always been linked into health and healing. It took me quite a few different pathways to find myself doing the work that I'm doing today. Many different learnings, knowledge bases, courses, teachings. For me, the foundation was set in Chinese medicine. That was a bachelor degree I did after school. I got myself through the bachelor degree, but I had a huge yearning to leave Australia and continue my experience elsewhere. So despite what was expected of me, I packed my bags. I first did an internship over in China to study amongst the doctors in the Chinese hospitals, which is one of the coolest experiences ever. And I love China and Chinese culture, so it really sparked something new in me. I packed my bags and I went overseas. One of the first places I went was Peru to sit in ayahuasca ceremonies. I was about 23. And I found that traveling to different parts of the globe facilitated really juicy life experience for me. I could change my lens from different cultures, different experiences. And I traveled for, I think it was about 6 or 7 years, a lot of it by myself, with prioritizing different experiences, doing a little bit of work on the way, taking my acupuncture with me. And I learnt through many different teachers and mentors, but the biggest teacher and mentor for me was travel, but also addiction. So for me, the exploration that travel and substances gave me was like a deep unraveling in the self. There always seemed to be enough courage there to do what scared me and to face what these situations might have for me. When I came back to Australia, I started practicing again. And I was using acupuncture and Chinese medicine, which I think is one of the most beautiful modalities that we have. But I was noticing that my counseling and my intuitive skills were developing too, and that people were responding to that. Every time I wanted to change my lifestyle and change my life path, I would always want to take my healing with me, but I was confined to what my lecturers had told me, what other people have done, which says that you have to have a practice and that you have to be staying in the one place in order to be a good healer or to have a good business or whatever that meant. And I wanted to challenge that. So my partner and I built a house truck a few years ago, and we were living in Melbourne at the time. And we wanted to travel around Australia and follow the festivals where we were working also at the time. So my questions became, how can I actually adapt my skills and serve people in this way without needing to be in front of them? Can I do acupuncture on people without needles? Or do I develop my counseling skills to actually adapt my skills over the phone so I can be anywhere and still provide the same level of support and healing? Which took me towards a life coaching learning course, which was nothing short of life-changing. It was a week-long training. It was very intense, but it facilitated the rebirthing that I needed and the skills that I could adapt over the phone. It was incredible. So after that course, I started coaching people from my house truck from all over Australia, just over the phone. And I was getting really good results. Also at that life coaching course, I sat next to a woman that intrigued me that had some very interesting healing skills. And I ended up signing up with her, and she became my mentor. She was the one that took me through shamanic medicine training, of which highly developed my psychic abilities and my intuition, and linked me into skills that I could still provide for people that represented their spiritual and energetic selves. So this created a beautiful collaboration. I had the Chinese medicine to deal with the physical, and also that was an energetic medicine skill, but it provided that framework and that basis that it still does for my entire life. I added the coaching skills on top, which is really about efficient word healing to really encourage the right alignment and actions in people and to make them feel like they have an abundant resource of support, of which you are now trained and skilled in looking at their problems with them and helping them to find healing and empowerment and evolution. And then I added shamanic medicine on top, which is really about being the intermediate between the physical realm and the spiritual realm for other people. But also through shamanism, you can explore their spiritual resources and their intuition too, to give them access to their own resources. For me, it was important to be working with people to help them unlock their own healing abilities, their own resources, their own realizations, so that at one point they would say, wow, I've got enough. I know I'll always be okay. Thank you so much. And they're off. Whereas some of the other modalities, you are still the facilitator of the healing, and therefore people are dependent on you. And that wasn't sustainable for me. Thanks, Belle. So from that collaboration, I've been fine-tuning and refining where I get to the point where I am now, where I've stopped doing one-on-one healing sessions and I'm more doing teaching and training other people to unlock their own healing abilities and to develop their intuition. The reason why intuition is so important at the moment is because most people have this huge bank of spiritual resources they're not even dipping into, they're not even allowing in. Our connection to source is like an unlimited energy source of which we don't need anything to sign up and to have that tap of abundance flowing in. We just need to get out of the way. But because of that conditioning that we've already talked about from society that says that intuition's not safe, that it's not grounded, that it's not logical, that it's not scientific, that it's not helping the whole, or whatever it is that we've been programmed to believe, we actually shut down most of our spiritual resource centers. We shut down our crown chakra, so we can't listen to our higher self or our guides or anything out of the construct of our 3D reality that would greatly benefit us at this moment. Even people that are naturally intuitive are finding it hard to use that as a governing system when their 3D reality is being so highly triggered. What we get is like a battle, a negotiation constantly. I want to trust that voice because I know that there's something in that, but this voice over here is telling me that it's so risky that I will possibly not even survive. The depths of resistance between us and our spiritual resources is huge. And it's very much, that's why they're calling this the Great Awakening. It's very much that when we have the courage to explore these different realities, these different dimensional fields, these different access points to resources, it feels like we become more clear, more awake, more aware, more dialed in, more present. Time slows down. We can access our body, which means we can ask our body, do you actually need something different from me? Is there a way that I can look after you that's not happening now? Now that I feel that I have the right awareness, what can I do to actually make my body function better, which means I'll have more resources, which means more energy, more efficiency. There'll be a part of my life that unlocks energy rather than takes it away. With that new level of awareness, that new awakening, we can look at all the different areas of our lives and see which area is serving me, which means which area do I love that I think is in alignment with where I'm trying to go, which feels nourishing and loving and balanced, and which part of those parts of my life don't serve me, which means I don't like them. They make me feel uncomfortable. They're a great source of stress and pain. They provide discomfort and discourse and chaos and crisis. When we can actually come in a neutral position and say, this part's good, this part's not good for me, that means that we're actually at a place of awareness where we're realizing our own power. Amanda says, I have a deep feeling that I'm here to also help and heal people. I want to know more about shamanism. Great. I'm 55, recently been working on a huge amount of childhood trauma. Congratulations for your courage. I'm still a work in progress, as are we all, triggered now as I can't see my children. I am thankful that I broke ancestors' baggage. Beautiful, Amanda. This is actually an experience where a lot of people find themselves right at this time. And I'll give you this piece. Shamanism, for one, is a grounded and practical framework from which to explore your spiritual resources. Every part of shamanism that I treat, there is no drugs, there is no herbs, plants, manipulations. There's nothing we need. We learn how to go into an altered state to access transcendent realms, and you meet your celestial team members. These are the spiritual beings that are ready to guide, to support, to be there, to answer questions, to give you a sense that you're not alone, to help you understand this incarnation and what your mission is. On our journey towards those spiritual resources, we usually have to go through a big healing and unraveling. Reiki 1 is a beautiful place to start. Reiki 1 is an excellent access point. If you're attuned to Reiki 1, you already know that you can be a conduit between source energy and the physical reality through your hands. Great place to start. Everything that you do on top of Reiki, you'll always use Reiki for. Yeah, it's a beautiful place to start. Shamanism would complement extraordinarily well. None of the modalities or the courses or the trainings that I teach ever clash with any other healing modality. I make sure that everything complements, so that everything you already know is just enhanced and upgraded and refined, rather than having this, no, it's not like that, it's got to be like this. Because that's just a illusion of segregation and separation that isn't part of my reality, so I don't teach it. There is an interesting piece in that for you, Amanda, that you're exploring your own childhood trauma, and yet you are away from your children. So what is happening during these restrictions and lockdowns? It is forcing us to accept our situation beyond the comforts of what our ego would say would be better for us. Basically, you've all got guides, whether you like that word or that concept or not. You can use your higher self or connection to source or God or whatever it is, but you have access to that divine energy. Do you really think that your guides would have you in this very situation if it didn't serve you? Now, your guides are not people. Your guides are not your relatives or these concepts of people watching over us. Source energy is love, unlimited, unconditional, unbounding love. And we know that we come from love because we come through to the earth plane from our mothers. We come through their DNA, through love itself. We are love expressing itself, right? So in this situation that we're all in, and everybody's situation is different depending on where you've ended up and where you can't travel and what the restrictions are, this very situation serves you beyond belief. The cravings and the pains and the triggers that you have are now flushing to the surface so you can look at them. And it's really important that we do, so that everything outside of us that feels like a trigger and a burden and a weight and a pain is giving us the opportunity to release our attachment to it, not our connection. Connection is something that binds heart spaces easily, effortlessly, and without restriction. So my connection to someone else is not dependent on when I see them, what they say, if they pick up the phone, blah, blah, blah. My connection is something that is felt on a spiritual, energetic level of which I can't actually describe most of the time. It's the reason why I can meet someone and fall in love with them instantly. It's a reason why I find someone so familiar, yet I've never met them. It's a reason why I can be in someone's presence and feel instantly uncomfortable. Connection is something beyond our 3D narrative. It is beyond something we comprehend. If we have the words and the skills and the finesse and the art form, we might be able to describe it well. Your attachment to things is the part of you that needs that external circumstance in order to satisfy something within you. Attachment is the sticky part. Attachment has the hooks. Attachment has the the deserving part, the part that is a little bit too much. Yeah? Because our attachment is still part of our ego's control mechanisms. I'll invite you all to introduce this concept into your biofields. If I am connected to something, there's nothing that can change that, manipulate it. It's only strengthen and weaken. That's really all it is. And it's not dependent on what I do. It's not dependent on who I am, my identity, or what happens to me. The things that I'm connected to, they just are, right? I can be connected to nature, and nature doesn't have to give me anything, and I don't have to go out and make sure it's watered. The connection is love. That's it. If I'm attached to something, there is part of me that is looking for compensation for my void out there, creating the attachment. Attachment is painful in a way. It represents suffering. It is the human condition that attaches us to our external circumstances. And that's only because that's what you've been taught. There's no shame and guilt in this. This is all unraveling collectively for all of us. Your attachment is the part of which you're controlled. Your attachment is the part that can be used against you. I'll say it again. The things that you're attached to are the things that can be used against you for control. So when we attach to something, so we all know what we're attached to, we can feel it. It's like the habit we can't give up, the bit of overeating, the sugar, the person, the role, the purpose, the job, the comfort, whatever it is out there, you know you're attached to it, because when someone threatens to take it away, you get very nervous. Okay, that's attachment. So just think of something that you know you're attached to. Don't judge it. Just have it up in your mind space. When you think about that thing being removed, there's a part of you that calls out, oh gosh, don't take that bit away. I need that. Don't play with that bit. I need that. That need, I want you to now turn the mirror back on yourself and see what that attachment is telling you about what you need to address and heal within yourself. I assure you that if you connected and aligned to something, that although you would feel that you really want it in your life and you hope that you can choose to have it in your life forever, it's a completely different energy system in the body than attachment. Attachment creates fear. The attachment says, I need this, otherwise I'm scared of something. Now, Amanda, if you feel comfortable, and everybody else, if you feel comfortable, just ask yourselves these questions. If I didn't have that in my life, what would I have to look at? If I couldn't access that thing that I'm attached to, what would I have to heal? What is calling out in me to be filled up from the inside? Now, when we attach in relationships, we run the risk of coming into codependency. Codependency is an enmeshing of relationship dynamics. It is something that we're also waking up out of. On the basis of that codependency and that attachment is we're connected because of these circumstances. And that can be your dynamic. We're connected because I'm your daughter and you're my mother. Or we're friends because we went through that thing together. Or we love each other because I do this and you do that for me. But these are still conditions, and these are still restrictions and limitations on what could be connection and alignment. Relationships for me on a shamanic front are soul contracts. We have chosen them in another plane in order to benefit mutual evolution. What does that mean? That means if we're in a contract, you and me, we've written that contract from another place that says this is going to benefit our evolution. No part of that contract says, is it going to be easy, comfortable? Is it going to feel good? Are we going to be happy together all the time? No, it is mutual evolution, which means we're going to play something out that benefits us on a soul level that is greatly needed in order to facilitate evolution, growth, right? So we have soul contracts with many people in our lives, with so many. Some of them play out in a big way, some of them play out in a small way. Your attachment to that person is the 3D egoic part of relationship. And I invite you to take an astral plane of it. What is actually playing out in this contract? What is serving me through this contract? How can I allow this contract to serve me more? What can I let go of so that I'm not attached to that person or that external circumstance, but I'm still connected to it? I guarantee you, safety and control. Well done, Amanda. That's really cool. Thank you for being vulnerable and finding that. Safety and control is attachment. Now, the interesting part becomes, if I take away or threaten that safety and control for you, what do you have to look at? The lack of safety and the feeling of no control, possibly, within. The attachment to that thing or those people needing to signal to you that you are safe. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just unsustainable. And I talk about sustainability a lot because if we were looking at your evolutionary pathway, your healing journey, your earth incarnation, what I would be asking you to do now is I want you to look at everything that's unsustainable, everything that's dipping into your resources, of which is shortening your resource life, which means if you're using 80% of your resources to just stay in survival mode, then what does that say for the big event that might be happening, or the stress that's in your future, or the beautiful opportunities that require courage and energy in your future? What if abundance is coming for you, but if you're running too low, you won't even be able to see it when it shows up. You won't even be able to access it. You won't be able to take the actions and the decisions in alignment with it because you'll be too busy trying to keep safety and control there through external circumstances. This is just unsustainable. We need to come from a place where our energy systems are running sustainably in alignment with nature, which is telling us actually the timing mechanism of which we can trust, not the busy, crazy world that says, keep going, work more, drink more coffee and produce and all that stuff. When you look out in nature, when you see stillness, stillness. When you see wind, change. When you see rain, letting go. When you see extremely hot, you feel, okay, let's sweat it out. Whatever that is, nature tells you what's happening. But if we are running unsustainable programs, it means we're dipping into resources all the time, which means we're actually increasing time. We're speeding it up. And we're running on that nervous energy, which has actually got that highly charged frequency to it. If you look at, let's look at the animal kingdom, because I draw a lot from the animal kingdom in shamanism as well. If you've ever seen an animal that is weak, injured, or wounded, it will be hyperstimulated, hyper-aware, and somewhat savage. It'll either dart around making sure it manages fear and staying away from everything, or it'll be savage in order to protect itself because it knows it's under-functioning. People that are constantly reacting to their environment as if it's a threat are defensive. Defensiveness gives us this edge that greatly gets in the way of connection. If I'm warm and I'm smiling and I'm relaxed, my nervous system is telling you that I'm ready for connection, and I can absorb that from you. If I'm hyper-aware, defensive, and threatened, all of my signal systems are saying, get away from me, right? Now, not many people would say that they don't want more love and connection. I think most of us greatly need love and connection, but it's always a reflection. Your ability to love and connect and show up for yourself will be reflected in your environment. So Amanda's attached to the presence of her children in her reality, signaling safety and control for her. It makes sense to me that her guides have taken that external situation away so that she can now find safety and control for herself. It doesn't mean that as soon as you find that your children will just sweep towards you, but it does mean that when you find safety and control, you will be free of the attachment that causes suffering. So safety and control needs to be cultivated from within so that we have that full base chakra. Which means, how do I top up my resources? What actually makes me feel good, nourished? What fills me up? Because I'm sure time with your kids fills you up. How can I recreate that same filling up by the actions and the behaviors and the habits that I have? So sometimes this is writing a big long list about what fills me up, what makes me feel good, what makes me feel calm, connected, loved. And then the other list is the interesting part, is what actually takes my energy, what uses my resources, what makes me feel scared, unsafe, out of control, what is actually dipping in that I am choosing to do. Now, most of the time there's this piece in between that list of what you're doing that actually takes up too many resources that you think you should, or that you're obligated to, or you need to, and there'll be a program in there that I would be threatening to delete. Because there's a program in there that says, I need to do that for somebody else because, or there's a program in there that says, that's what I'm expected to do because, that doesn't need to be real, that doesn't need to be played out. The most common one I find, Amanda, is I have to do this for other people because I always have, because I'm their mother, because that's how I get love, because they need me to, because their safety depends on it. The piece that I get the most is the overgiving, the over-nurturing, the mother archetype that gives beyond their own physical capacity in order to serve other people. But the interesting part is that most of the time, those actions have not been voiced or agreed to or consented to. So some questions we can all ask ourselves is, where are we giving beyond our capacity for other people? Which means, where are you helping out, rescuing, answering the phone, doing all the chores, being the one taking all the responsibility, being the one controlling everything where you don't actually need to? Where are we not putting up boundaries to protect our own resources? I already know you. Seems like I do. Another question is, where am I not accessing other resources that could benefit me? And what are the paradigms of limitation and control, like the limiting beliefs that are actually taking up too much of my resources because they're based on fear? So sometimes those limiting beliefs or those fear-based ideas can be something like, if I don't listen to this person, they've got no one. If I'm not there for that person, they won't know what to do. So Amanda says, I wasn't safe as a child. Control kept me safe, or so I thought. Interesting. So we try and control the parts of our lives that we don't feel safe in. Control is always a mechanism that comes from fear. We can't control anything. We try. But what I learn from people that have used control as a safety mechanism for a long time, their nervous systems tell me that they're stressed, they're locked up, they're staying safe and small in everything they can control, which means they're not taking risks, they're not exploring curiosity, they're not moving into uncertainty, they're not creating because they're too busy controlling. Right? If I'm scared of, let's say I'm scared of something that happened in my past tells me that you can't trust anyone. Right? That's a lie, just so you know, but we often get there, particularly with childhood trauma. So I start to control my relationship sector. I only let the few people in that signal to me that I'm safe with them, which usually means that they work towards making me feel comfortable, that they overextend for me, or they listen to what I say. Whatever it is your own personal stuff. Which means I have a huge distrust in people as a whole, which hardens the heart chakra a little bit, which puts a barrier between me and most people, of which I only let in the parameters of trust, which can often be blood relatives or someone that stays there no matter what, or long-term connections or something like that. What my nervous system tells people is I'm out of action. I'm not actually available for any of that stuff. And I become rigid, skeptical, and hardened. And it takes a lot of energy to control external circumstances. Believe me, I've tried it. The way that I tried to control my external circumstances was through substances. I was terrified of uncertainty. I was terrified of not knowing. I was terrified of not being in charge of my life. So I put all of my control mechanisms into substances, which meant I could numb down the control and just be wild. It looks like freedom. It looks like spontaneity. It looks like all of these out there things. It's just control. Because I actually didn't have the resources or the skill set to know that uncertainty is something that I can trust, that I can have full trust in everything going on around me, but that had to come from within, that I had to learn and explore a narrative that wasn't constant self-criticism, not based on what I did or what I chose or how it worked out for me, based on an expression of self-love that I had to cultivate. That worthiness was not a requirement for me to explore a creative life. It was something that I had control over, that I could create worthiness, that I could cultivate it. This is all where we unlock resources rather than use them. The next part from unlocking resources is, how do I use them sustainably? What have I got and how sustainable are they? What am I running here? At the very basis of all of this is love is expansive, creative, unlimited, infinite resource of which you have access to every moment. You are love expressing itself, and in that expression, everything is divine. Fear is contractive. Fear wants more fear. Fear relates to the unconsciousness, the darkness. It is neither good nor bad. It is the opposite of love. So as we come onto the earth plane, we choose the polarity of this earth plane to evolve through, which means all of us know the battle between love and fear. all of us understand that there's a choice, and all of us are here to unlock different parts of our personality and our soul fragments in order to keep on aligning with love. The interesting part is when we get out of the way, we just flow with love. No problem. Down the river, we've got a raft. It's great. It's amazing. Fear is there to remind us of what we are and what we're in alignment with. But fear is the part that stagnates us. It's the part that keeps us stuck. It's the part that always argues that there's risk. There's nothing wrong with risk, but risk is there for you to unlock courage in order to push for further alignment. If it was just easy to go down the river, then you wouldn't be on the earth plane. You'd just be swimming up in the transcendent realms, no worries. We need to remind ourselves that the river's there, that we can play, that we can be guided in that. But we have to understand that we've got to move past safety and risks and all these other things that are keeping us within society's mold. I don't want you to leave society forever and go hang out in the river forever. I want you to have both and just be choosing love. Be wary that fear is there, but keep it at a distance. You know it's there. You need to calculate it. It's part of our reality. You're never going to get away from it, but you can use it as a collaborator in your creative life. Where we sort of want to get to, where we really unlock our potential, our creative heights. We're talking about your divine purpose, your mission here. Where we unlock all of that stuff is, I know this doesn't make heaps of sense, and I know it's risky, but I feel that it's right for me. Okay, more abundance, great. Usually the universe unlocks a whole lot of resources there, a whole lot of magic. Things just fall into alignment, synchronicities happen, all the beauty starts opening up. Some people get themselves into a trap that thinking that once they do that, once that's it, they've done it, they took the leap of faith, they're now going to be in 5D forever, let's go. Not really. It's more that this journey of evolution, this incarnation, is a constant flow towards alignment. It is a constant unraveling, a constant awakening, something that pushes us and challenges us to always be transmuting our darkness into light. A lot of people think, all right, I've looked at my trauma now, everything should just work out for me. And in some senses, that's true, but there's limitations there. When we are guided by divine purpose, when we are creating a reality that serves us, when we are sovereign, it is a constant flow, constant creativity. It's a constant healing journey. You do get better at it. It becomes more efficient. It becomes easier. Generally with a pathway that's higher in a dimensional frequency, we can ask for more ease and grace. We can ask for abundance just to be unlocked. All we usually need is courage to act in alignment with our highest good, knowing that there's always this other stuff that's going to be our resistance towards our divine purpose. But there will always be the challenges involved with a spiritually creative life. It can come to you with ease and grace, but expecting that to be easy and comfortable all the time is just your ego wanting what it wants while you're linked into a concept that feels good. Walking in alignment with your own self-sovereignty is a pathway of courage. Courage is a resource of which we're going to need physical alignment. We're going to need wellness. We're going to need supportive relationships. We're going to need healing. And we're going to need the knowledge and the tool base to know how to choose that path and how to become very aware of the shadow aspects of ourselves that often call out for distraction and a little bit of manipulation and all those hooks that we often have to go back a step and remember what we've learned before and come back onto the path. But we're looking for a more sustainable, efficient road to self-sovereignty. And I think that that's the key in this transition towards a new world, because we greatly need everyone to address their own personal sovereignty. I know that a lot of people are fueled by the battle that's going on, that we feel we need to take a side, that we're in opposition to people that believe differently, or that we're in opposition to a government or a system or whatever it is. But that opposition is just serving us to see that we're still polar in ourselves. We are still creating segregation in ourselves. We have a part of us that's trying to be in control and a part of us that's trying to let go. We have a part of us that represents our masculine and our feminine, the yin and the yang, the beautiful balance, the light, the dark, the love, the fear. I don't think it's about trying to become love over fear. You are love. We just need to find that beautiful collaboration, that neutrality in the middle that holds both. Your light and your dark can come to the party, and it doesn't mean that you're good and bad or good or bad. You're not either. You are you, you are love. Being able to dance within that neutrality, within that balance, so that you have access to many different perspectives, many different realities, many different creative outlets, in order to become more sustainable and efficient at how you stay in that flow. Opening up to your guides, or through shamanism or through intuition development, is simply going to give you the resources that you need to stay in flow. It is the access point to a frequency that is not bound by the construct of the earthly plane, which says you're totally fine where you are. We just need you to get this part. We understand there's resistance and pain and suffering, but we are on your side. We are actually trying to get you everything that you've asked for and everything you've been asking for through those conditions. So everything that we've ever wanted is already there. The part that is our responsibility is understanding the parts within us that we have control over, that we have power over, that we can unlock, that we can heal. This is an individual evolutionary path. For those of us that are dreaming of a new world, dreaming of an evolutionary world, we have to link into what part of us is not there yet and change that part of us so that we're in alignment with that world, so that we are the new world creating itself. I love what Kyle Cease says. He says, the universe is trying to update itself through you. That completely changes our perspective of what we're doing here and our purpose. So if there's something that you're uncomfortable about, how is the universe trying to update itself through you? What do you have to change about that discomfort? How can you get in the way? What can you let go of? If this is your reflection, how can you change something in your internal environment to change the outside environment? How can you use fear as fuel? How can you cultivate more love without it being dependent on anything to do with worthiness? Whatever you want outside of you, go inside, find it, and have the courage to ask the right questions. What do I need to let go of? How do I get out of the way? What is my greatest fear about making this choice, this decision, walking this path? Most of the time we don't ask for the things we really want because they're scared that if we get it, we're going to stuff it up. We've got to get rid of all that. You know what's in your heart. You know what your body has been telling you through its feelings for a very long time. If you feel like there is more, if you feel like your potential is not being fulfilled, If you feel that you could have a more creative, healing life, then don't be afraid to ask for it. This is not about worthiness. This is about you knowing that there's more that you can be. And when there's more that you can be, there's more that you can do to serve. But we need it to come from a place that when your guides know that you're ready, when they say green light, this is it, we need you to step up now, then I would ask you to have your resources and your lifestyle and everything in your life so sustainable and so in alignment that you have so much energy to give for your mission. If there's still a part of your body that's telling you it's needing more, it needs to update, it needs more nutrients, it needs more attention, energy, and love. If it's still trying to alert to your attention, which means if you're still getting symptoms, if something's still showing up on your blood tests, if you're in pain, if you can't walk, whatever it is, address what the body needs so that when you are in full alignment, your guides say, okay, I think she's ready. I think he's ready. She or she has been showing up, which tells me that she's ready for the next step. And that just adds to the next step and the next step and the next step. We were never meant to be in regimented, rigid ideas of self. We were never meant to be locked into identity that was created from our pain. We were never meant to be in fight and flight all the time. Yeah, Amanda, if you say that you need to believe in you for sure, but you probably just need to cultivate that. It's usually that self-criticism is so loud that any self-belief is just not really heard. It's challenging the self-criticism, the self-judgment, knowing that it's come from parental styles, from a society that very much needed you to stay small and modest to be able to fit in and to industrialize a new world. But we're in a different world from that now. In 5D, there is no self-criticism. There's no worthiness crap. There's really none of that paradigm. You don't have to criticize yourself in order to become motivated to do what you need to do. Look at the evidence. Most people report that their criticism and their self-judgment does not give them the results that they're looking for. It doesn't keep them away from disempowering habits. It doesn't motivate them to do the right things. It actually does nothing except to put them in a constant stress mode. So no matter if they pick the right decision or the wrong decision or a good one or a bad one or indifferent, they're going to beat themselves up for it. That is your conditioning. That is your subconscious programming that is running in the background, like background noise. You have access to that subconscious programming. You can change it. You can completely refine it, change it, rewrite it, upgrade it, whatever you want to do. You have the power to do that. I'll leave it with you at that segment for a while. If you're interested in changing your subconscious programming, in releasing your spiritual resources to all of these things that I've mentioned, this is what I'm creating whole core spaces around. For me, I'm passionate about self-sovereignty in every individual. That is the way that I think that we're going to unlock higher states of consciousness on a collective front. It's not about wanting everyone out there to wake up. It's about, if I am dedicated to my own awakening every single day, if I show up to higher states of consciousness, if I do the things needed to raise my frequency, then that is gifted to the collective. And it's not dependent on anyone else or anything else out there. I can be completely isolated in my own environment, adding to the collective simply by prioritizing my own sustainability, my own sovereignty. This is a gentle evolutionary process. You believing in yourself is your own mechanism and opportunity. You can be asking yourselves the question, That's a good one for Amanda, actually. Thank you. I'm sure, Amanda and everybody else, you're really good at saying the right things to other people to help them believe in themselves. I'm sure you've become a master at telling your children what they need to hear in order to invoke confidence, to invoke calm, safety, and control. So how do you become your own parent? How do you reparent yourself to cultivate a deep sense of self-belief? Reparenting is a concept I really like. It's like, how do I show up for myself as if I was my own child, as if I was my own precious resource, as if I was the most important person on the planet, because you are. Putting those lenses back on ourselves to understand that we've sort of been doing the opposite. It's more comfortable for us to tell everyone out there that they're amazing and they're beautiful and they can do anything that they want. But how often do we tell ourselves that? And how often do we need to tell ourselves that? Every day? 100 times a day? Every hour? If you begin talking to yourself to create the right environment for self-belief, then you'll start to change all of your neural pathways. The subconscious programming, the conditioning that we have, has created neural network pathways in our brain that fire and wire together in the same way constantly. The habits and the behaviors that you have are sometimes the most detrimental, disempowering ones. If you criticize yourself easily, then that is a neural network in your brain that you will find easily, no matter what you do. Creating new neural network pathways, new connections. You know the feeling when you create a new connection. It's an epiphany, it's an aha moment, it's the shivers down the spine. It's new neural networks happening. We need to create a lot of new neural networks in the right way to drown out the old ones. Which means, how do we actually spark creative thought, new thoughts, new beginnings every day? How do we solve problems in a new light and have access to different parts of our brain that are not the everyday getting through it 24-hour egoic narrative? How do we actually use our brain to see around problems? This is creativity. This is building new networks. This is building new parameters in the brain so that our minds become an even richer resource rather than the most influential and often damaging parts of our lives. The mental health crisis is more like a mental health awakening. People are now all of a sudden really aware of their thoughts, their decisions, their narratives. They don't really know what to do with it. Usually we become aware of something so that we can see where it's not serving us, but then we need to put in the action to change it. Often that's a lack of skill set area or something that can simply just be opened up with new knowledge. We've got access to so much information. So even researching ideas like how do we change our thought patterns? What are thought forms? You can research the power of affirmations, subconscious programming. Get into the information so that you see how much power you have over your mind space and how you can change it. But thinking that our behaviors and our actions are going to change when we keep our thoughts the same, there is a feeling of swimming upstream there. It's like, I want to be a good person through these actions, but I'm so stressed through all of these thoughts that I don't like and trying to avoid all these different areas in my brain and in my past and all things that they're out of alignment, and that's causing me stress. It takes so much effort to just override self-criticism to get to self-love. I prefer to go back to the source, change the thought patterns, and just let actions and behaviors just follow. So self-belief, self-love, confidence, that all comes from that source base. And it's really about hacking into the mind space to say, what actually cultivates self-love? How do I love someone else? What actions and behaviors do I outpour onto other people to let them know that I love them? How can I do that for myself? How does it begin? How do I actually know I love someone? How does that thought process begin? Usually it begins with an infatuation, a saturation of the mind space with that person. So why can't we do that for ourselves? Why can't we imagine and spend time on all the tiny little fragments and aspects of ourselves that we actually deeply appreciate, that we really love, that we're really grateful for? When you fall in love with someone, you realize the smallest details, the most beautiful parts about their face and the way that they walk and the way that they smell and all these beautiful things. Why can't we do that for ourselves? Rewire the brain around our identity. Identity is the stickiest filter at the moment. It's something that is trying to break away in everyone, but it just hasn't yet. Your identity needs to be created, not stuck. My identity cannot be based on limited parameters. I can't put myself in the box of female, white, this, healer. It's limited. It doesn't feel right. It has to be created every day through my actions and behaviors and my alignments. My identity is malleable. And I tell my students this all the time. We need to be able to break up with every day and welcome the new one. Who I was yesterday is not who I am today. But do I have the practices and the disciplines in place? Do I have the self-care rituals in place so I can break up with every day once it's done? Most people don't. This is about letting go. I let go of everything yesterday because I actually need all my resources for today. How do we do that? That's the interesting part. Letting go is something that most people recognize that they need. The how can be the very personal part, but the part that needs a bit of hacking and a bit of tweaking. You'll notice this in your digestive system. If you can't let go, if you can't assimilate, you'll end up with digestive issues. It's meant to be a passive process of making nutrients from food, assimilating all the nutrients, and then letting go of the waste. Our identity and our lives can be seen the same. How do we just absorb from nature, absorb from our environment everything that we need, assimilate and process information passively, and let go of everything that doesn't serve us? Usually what's happening is I get an influx of energy in. I need to figure out what it all means. I need to put it into compartments of, is this me? Is this not me? I hold on to everything that I'm scared of and I try and control it, which means I don't let go of it. Bodies get denser and denser and denser and denser and denser. If you add on trauma onto that, it starts to segregate. The different organs and energy systems in their body literally just start to be separate. Because one is overloaded by too much here, so the other one can't take on from that one because it's overloaded too. The yin and yang is all out of balance because usually they feed each other like this beautiful flow, but now we're deciding that we need to control different parts of who we are and make sure that that's not threatened and our ego doesn't have to let go there and that we're not challenged by that. That was never meant to be a part of it. It was meant to be, I am this way today because I let go of tomorrow, and I don't know who I'll be tomorrow or the next day or the next day. So who I was yesterday must be recycled and created again today, and letting go. Usually this is about sustainable daily flow. And Chinese medicine has a beautiful framework for that, about all the different energy organ systems and how they actually work in flow throughout each day. Something I will be teaching in my event coming up, Synaptic Evolution, if all lockdowns are cleared in a couple of weeks, that'll be on the 21st to the 23rd of August on Tamborine Mountain. Synaptic Evolution is a deep dive into self-worth and how much self-worth is actually one of the biggest limiting factors in our lives. And I've introduced a lot of those concepts today with you guys. Synaptic Evolution, I'll actually be teaching a lot of the healing processes that I've used on my clients for years and got really good results. For me, I'd like to teach others to do that for themselves and for other people. It seems like a more sustainable way to do it. Then we can all share the skills and help each other. There'll be skills there that unlock trauma. There'll be skills there that are much like psychic surgery, pulling stuck energies out of the body. We'll be going into the depths of how to change the subconscious patterns, how to rewire the brain. It will be a deep dive, but a huge identity upgrade. The other trainings that I'm offering is beginners shamanic medicine training. There's actually 6 modules of shamanic medicine training all the way up to advanced 2. Everyone's welcome at beginners. We meet your celestial team members. We journey on from this world into other worlds, greatly changing your brainwaves so you can access parts of your being that are not limited by the 3D reality. And there'll be other trainings and courses on the way as I create them. If you've enjoyed this live stream, I do this fortnightly through my Patreon page. So the Patreon page is only $25 a month to sign up to, and we do 2 of these big live stream events every month. They're 2-hour events. The group is locked and closed and private. So people have a little bit more confidence to speak up in those Q&As, but a lot of them get a mini reading or a mini coaching session. They can talk about everything that's going on for them, and we can get to a place to help them find the practical steps to move forward, the action plan for them. And it doesn't matter if you are available during the time of those calls. You can watch the live replay, interact with it, freeze it, rewind it, do whatever you want. So that's a beautiful resource for people that aren't in the local area. I deeply believe in the right conversations at the right time with the right people. Today we are... Thanks, Karen. Today we are the eve before we have a new moon and the Lionsgate portal open. For those of you linked into that information, this is an extremely potent, creative time. Whether you believe in these concepts or not, sometimes I just like to ride the wave of what I'm feeling. Lionsgate portal will be at its peak tomorrow. That's the 8th of the 8th. This has got some very beautiful Syrian code energy in it. Oh, Amanda, I would love that. Come and do a course with me. I think it'd be beautiful to work with you. Ride the wave for Lionsgate portal and the new moon. Ask yourself those astral plane questions. Pull yourself out of any narratives that don't serve you. What can you create? Creating is about... Thanks, Belle. Yeah, it's going to be a really big shift. I've been feeling it all week, and I think there is so much divine intervention in a high power time like this, and also creating the illusion of restriction. I love the idea of everyone needing to be home with themselves in their own space, not distracted by routines and external circumstances, and drawing deep within to access our own authentic expression. And what does that mean? That means, how can I do this life better? How can I do human better? How can I create anything and everything that I want? Where can I push up and lean into those boundaries in my mind and realize that maybe they're not even there? I invite you to sit with yourself and your guides in stillness and in silence. I find it's the easiest to do at dawn or in the earliest part of the day in the fasting phase. And create and ask the questions with your higher self or your guides or whoever is there. With nature is beautiful too. And ask for what you can change, what you need to see, what can you heal. Ask for connection rather than attachment. Ask for more time, more love, more abundance. Ask for what you need. Ask for more purpose, more patience, more diligence, more discernment. Ask for what you need and pull the frequency into your body. Most of the time when I ask my guides, is there something I need to do to fix this? They say, no, just get out of the way. We got it all sorted. Okay, so what does that mean for me? Keep showing up. Keep being courageous. Take a step. Make a decision when we ask you to. Do things in alignment despite the fear that comes up. Be brave enough to ask for more. The deepest learning that I've got from my guides recently has been knowing or understanding the discernment between patience, which has an egoic stick to it for me. Patience, there's something in me that goes, oh yeah, I know. But how to unlock patience has been, if I prioritize my daily flow for sustainability, if I constantly raise my frequency so I'm in a higher state of consciousness and I slow down time, there is no need for patience. Everything just happens in timing. Everything shows up. This means I don't have to chase things. This means I don't have to control anything. This means I don't have to push myself. I don't have to force anything. I put my intention out, I align with it, I visualize it, I ask for it, and I ask for the courage to let it happen, and then I allow it to happen. It is not dependent on everything that I do. It is dependent on my frequency matching that situation when it comes in. What this looks like is when things happen in alignment with what I've asked for in the right timing, I go, oh, so that's how it's going to happen. That is the right time. That feels right. I will say a wholehearted yes and know that that's exactly where I need to be and exactly what I need to be doing. Rather than, but why isn't it happening now? I would like it to happen now so that then I can do the next part and the next part. And I'm so frustrated by the fact that it's not happening when my ego wants to control it to happen because it's easier and safer and more convenient and blah, blah, blah. So it's very much about setting the intention, getting out of the way and asking for the courage to let it happen. Of course, there are actions involved. It's not about doing nothing, but it's about keeping your nervous system in a state of calm so that you are following your own alignment with ease and grace, which means you're not dipping into resources through mechanisms of fear. I'm not saying that there's no challenges. I'm not saying that it's always comfortable. We need to get used to discomfort. Change is uncomfortable. Every time you take a step away from your conditioning, away from what society thinks you should do and what is expected of you, you will meet resistance. I want you to be ready and prepared for resistance. Resistance does not mean your intuition is saying don't do it. Resistance means, oh, maybe this is bigger than what I thought. Maybe this will actually unlock even more. Maybe I need to push through this barrier gently. and diligently, knowing that I'm leaving a little bit of that behind. Okay, all I need is courage. Taking small, sustainable steps is much better than taking leaps of faith and shitting yourself at each one. Yeah? So I want you to tinker on discomfort regularly. So discomfort becomes an indicator that you are constantly changing and creating and adapting. Feeling discomfort is really important to understanding that your emotions are coding your experience. I don't want you to ever repress or run away from or avoid your feelings. I want you to feel everything as you're taking those little steps to understand what's happening outside of your realm of awareness. Your feelings and your emotions extend beyond your 3D reality. Your ego does not have a very good indicator of what you're feeling in your future timeline, in your past timelines, in alternate realities. There's so much more going on here than we actually realize. Your ego is the narrative that keeps you here, and you need that. But let your feelings tell you about what's happening on a bigger scale. Your feelings can be linked into other people, to the collective, to your empathy, to your intuition. It is not uncommon for you to take a step towards a better life here and have a future timeline open up, of which you get a flooding sensation. Your mind wants to figure out what that sensation means and organize it in this reality. Sometimes you have no idea. You just know that something's happening. And it feels in your body like expansion, which usually feels like love. So I'm more in love with this moment, and it's okay that I don't understand why, but something's happening beyond my here and now, which means I know that I'm reaching into higher states of awareness, higher states of consciousness. We must be okay with uncertainty. We must be okay with risk. Embrace courage. You're going to need a lot of it. I'll leave it there. Beautiful people, thank you for joining me today. I hope this conversation has resonated with you. I hope you've got something out of it. If you'd like to join me on Patreon for regular calls, I've always got something to give, always got something to talk about. I love doing these live streams, and I'd love to have more of you there. So I'll put the link in the chat. You guys can follow at any time. If you're interested in any courses or trainings that I offer too, then I'll put my website link below. Thanks, Tara. Good to see you, darling. Please know that when you look at my website, I'm not actually doing the one-on-one healing sessions anymore, but you can have a look at what I was offering. But a lot of the courses and trainings are on there, or you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, which I'm sure a lot of you have found me anyway. Thank you so much. Enjoy the new moon Lionsgate portal. Please know that if you're in a restricted lockdown area, that this is serving you, and that it is not about you fighting any system. It's about you looking within. You have everything that you need. You are here for a beautiful mission and a divine purpose beyond anything you could ever comprehend. This is only the beginning of your evolutionary path. Thank you, Amanda. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully see some of you at the next event, and enjoy your beautiful Saturday. Thanks, lovelies. So much love.